What's up YouTube, this is Fate, bringing you another deck profile, and today we're going to be going over Super Quantum Resonators. Now originally I got into the whole Super Quantum archetype just because, well, I kind of grew up with Power Rangers, so instantly I was enjoying the fact that I was going to get to play with Power Rangers in Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck form. Decided to tinker around with their playstyle a little bit, and the initial deck design for this I tried to go for just going to spit out the Megazord as quick as you can each turn. Didn't fit into my playstyle a little bit. One of my gripes about playstyle wise is I don't like to focus on that single strategy as much in accordance with the majority of my other deck profiles. And I always like to leave those backdoor plays for other things to coexist with this deck. So then I started taking a look at more other archetypes like Resonators, and started enjoying this a little more. It kind of gave this deck a little bit of a TG feel to them, so decides to mold it around that premise, see what I can find from the old collection, and I end up getting this nice work of art that has been doing really well for me. So without further ado, let's get to the profile. And to start things off, we have to start with the alpha of the group, Super Quantal Fairy Alphan. Really good monster. You can either use its ability to change the level of all monsters on the field to one of the pilots to make Exceed summon a lot easier, or in this case you're most likely going to tribute this monster off, special summon one from the deck, and trigger 2 other effects in the graveyard. This card is extremely helpful for this deck, for that being that utility piece. And right after that we run triple of the Blue Ranger, Super Quantum Blue Layer. Really nice searcher for the deck. Also recur in the graveyard. You hardly run out of materials in the graveyard, which is why one of the reasons why I kind of got that TG vibe to it, because TGs also search out. They recur a lot, especially with their own support cards. So Blue Layer definitely reminds me a lot of that. Next, I run 2 of the Green Ranger, Super Quantum Green Layer. It does have a pretty good effect to be able to special summon another layer monster from your hand to the field, but considering how much that ability comes into play for some of your major plays, it got really clunky at times at 3, so I had to dumb this down to 2 to make it mold a little more consistently with the rest of the build. And for the last layer, 3 of the Red Ranger himself, Super Quantum Red Layer. Easily, other than Blue Layer, the most important Quantal cards that you need for this deck. Here's a really good reason why this guy has a pretty good value, not only having his Cyber Dragon ability, but to gather so much recursion from your graveyard, where it's special summoning or adding back to your hand. This guy helps trigger a lot of your plays and a lot of your speed plays as the game goes on. Next up, for the Resonator engine, decided to keep this simple with the basic triple Red Resonator to get the extra special summon to help facilitate some of your plays, and its special summon ability that you don't go into that often with this build, but the life point gain when you feel like it's necessary through Call of the Haunted or other means is very useful. And as far as the combo that I like to do with this build, Red Resonator, Green Layer special summons Blue Layer. I love those Trishula plays. And then next, for the other 2 Resonator cards, I run 2 Synkron Resonator. Now this, I did opt to run any of the other 2 level 2s from the high speed rider set, just because you don't get those abilities off as consistently. Whereas with Synkron Resonator you can chain your synchro plays together, and as well as recur a Red Resonator from your graveyard afterwards, so Synkron Resonator just had a lot more of a cohesive mesh to this whole scheme right here. And for the side support cards, we run 2 Overdrive Teleporters. And no, I did not just pick these up. I've actually had these 2 teleporters for quite a long time. Or it's through me or from my friend Cole and me getting his collection back to them coming back to me. These have been in pretty good big circulation through the group for a while, and to see this monster get as much play as it's been getting again, and as well as being a huge utility for Quantals, I'm really glad this card is back to show the world what it can do again. And for the Psychic Tuner monster, this is eventually going to become a Ghost Ogre later on, but for the meantime, I decided to use the original level 3 tuner himself, Psychic Commander, which, despite lacking in the obvious abilities of Ghost Ogre, the cool things that this guy can do to be able to beat over 1850 attack or lower monster is pretty good in its own right. Then to round out the monsters, we have one Genex ally Birdman for the utility final tuner monster, and two Maxxs just because where TGs doesn't lack with, especially if I spliced Necro's search engine, this build does need the draw power to keep itself in the more long-winded fights. That is it for the monsters. On to the spells. We run the triple of the Resonator Call. Since none of the Quantal monsters are tuners themselves, you want to, and the way this deck is designed, you really want to get into your tuner/synchro plays as much as possible, or have it available as much as possible. So 3 Resonator Calls definitely help fit the bill right there. 2 emergency teleports, both for the blue layer search ability and to feed the same synchro reason. And 1 reasoning to help out with the just mass special summoning plays. And there's a vast variety of levels in this deck, ranging from 1 to 5 that you can special summon. I'm not including 6 with Overdrive Teleporter because he cannot be special summoned. But either way, that is still a very good range to have reasoning go off effectively. And to help with the niche plays, I do still run 1 Super Quantal Mech ship Magnacarrier, just because it does help spit out those Exceeds monsters a little bit faster, and I do run enough of an engine to spit out the Megazord as well, so why not run this guy in here? And for the other supporter spells, we run 1 Upstart Goblin, 1 for 1 to help get to your tuners slash Alphans a little more quickly for the synchro plays, 2 Galaxy Cyclones for the back row hate, and 1 soul charge because tuners, synchros, and mass special summoning decks, soul charge definitely has a very fun home here. That is it for the spells. On to the traps. Kept this engine pretty basic. 2 Call of the Hodds to help launch a bunch of your recursion plays, as well as those surprise Red Resonator life point gains. 2 breakthrough skills to more utilize Graveyard a little more, like the Galaxy Cyclones, because these cards will be pitched one way or the other with reasoning. So I figure breakthrough skill was a much better fit than Fiendish Chain. And then for the other 2 standard traps, gotta run the Bombless Trap Hole, Soul Morning Duo. That is it for the main deck. On to the extra deck. Decided to keep the Synchro engine somewhat basic here. For the level 5, we run 1 Armades. For the 2 level 6s, we run 1 Charge Warrior and 1 Goyo Guardian. Ended up opting with Charge Warrior in this build just because this does give you that extra draw ability. In case you do face some of those low attack power, low defense power floater slash pendulum decks, this guy's ability to attack all special monsters on the field definitely plays into some pretty good plays down the road. For the 2 level 7s, 1 Cluer and Synchro Dragon to help protect from monster effects, and the A-Bomb itself, Black Rose Dragon. For the 3 level 8s, we keep that standard with Spark Dragon, Stardust Dragon, and Scrap Dragon. And to round out the other 2 Synchro monsters, we run 1 Trishula for level 9, and 1 Star Eater for our level 11. Star Eater doesn't come into play nearly as much as it did in the past, but this card is still very good for beating over some pesky 3-grand monsters. And then on to the 5 Exceeds monsters that we play. 1 Daigusto Emerald to keep the recursion consistent at times. And then we run the Zords themselves in Grand Pulse, Ouroboros, and Magnacarrier. And of course the Super Quantal Mech King, the Great Magnus himself. And when you get this guy, just the fact when you get this guy in the field with multiple different materials on it, it's extremely hard for your opponents to come back with any type of play in the game today. And with that, that is my Quantum Resonator deck profile. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And until next time.